The 2024 Southern Conference, Todd Upchurch, positive coaching equals positive results.
Now for many 20-some years now, he's been involved with the USPTA Southern Board, so we're happy to have him back and to educate us a little bit more. So, Todd Upchurch.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? Good. End of a good day. I'm glad that they could go outside. That's a positive thing. So I'll just get a little bit about me. I try to work with a lot of interactions. So if you have questions, statements, things you want to jump out, you will not hurt my feelings by saying that. And I love the feedback that we get. So yeah, even you will not hurt my feelings, right? But I love the feedback that we would have. So what I'm talking about today is positive coaching. Obviously by the slide behind me you can see that, but that's how I've tried to treat my career. I've been teaching for over 3 decades. I know I look young, I started young, so. But I've been teaching for quite a long time, and everything that I try to do, I try to use in a positive way. Try to turn things into a experience, even if when things happen negatively on the tennis court or with students. Now I'm always telling my pros, and have for years, you never know what the student, kids or adults, what they're coming onto the court with, what they showed up at the club with. You have no idea what's going on outside of what they do before they get to you. So if somebody comes in with a sour attitude, your job is not to reprimand them for that. Your job is to use the tools that you have, the skills that you have, the sport that you have, to turn the tide on that. And I've been blessed, and as everybody in this room has been blessed, to have tennis as we're selling the widget of tennis, right? To be able to have that gift, to be able to teach tennis to people. So that's kind of the way I approach it, and that's what this presentation is about. We've always been told that attitude matters, and being upbeat and positive, and how you carry yourself, how you look when you go into the court. Are you late when you get to the court? Are you waiting on the students? All those things pop in even before the lesson starts. Are you high energy? Are you expecting the best of everybody that's on your court? Or are you low energy? And hey, Kaz, good to see you out here. So I will say I teach more kids than adults, probably about 80%. I teach kids that are under 10, just because I'm probably on the same mental level as they are, so it really fits in well for me. But there are adults that I teach too, but mainly I'm on the 10 and under, so a lot of what I talk about is kind of based on that. So we've all been here. So I think Jason looked like this earlier, right before we did the Zoom call. But we've all been at this point and trying to stay positive, trying to stay upbeat. Something that Fritz Earl, he's a mentor of mine. He was one of the original 17 Master Pros, and he used to say something all the time. It's not his quote, but he used to say that to me is that the mind cannot hold a positive and a negative thought at the same time. So, and you can try if you want to do that. The old joke was, your mother-in-law driving off a cliff in your Mercedes or something like that. But you can't have a positive and a negative thought in your mind at the same time. So why try to be on the negative when the positive is the opposite of that? So that was always a good thing. And then whether you think you can or you think you can't, both are true. So how you approach life, how you approach things, lessons on the court, whether you think you can or you think you can't, both are true. So when you talk about attitude, what does that really mean? So if I said to you, Jason, I said, what does having a good attitude mean? When you walk on a tennis court, or you're going to the office, or you're dealing with junior events and stuff, what does having a good attitude mean for you?
Self-perception or my self-attitude is positive. I'm wearing a positive sign on my sleeve.
Right. And some of that comes from being confident that you're going to do a good job. Also, some of that comes from self-talk. Not every day is a great day. I can tell you, last Tuesday morning, I had this week, I had a bad day. But then you try to get out of that, right? You try to talk yourself back into a good spirit there. So here's what I just said earlier. Mike can have that. I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and I was a Notre Dame fan when Lou Holtz was there. And he had a great quote, and he says, "The ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do, and attitude determines how well you do it." So I'll give you a couple sidebars about where I come from in life. And so I had 3 pretty major events that happened in life, starting when I was age 16, like yesterday, just a few years ago. So when I was 16, I had some kind of weird medical stuff going on. So I was lost some feeling in my upper right half, and couldn't figure out what was going on. And that was late 89, something like that, 88. So hepatitis was going around, and then they tested for that, tested for MS and D, trying to figure out what was going on. Turned out that I had an aneurysm that was sitting on the brainstem, right? And it was cutting off the blood supply to my upper right half. So kind of think about sleeping on your arm and having it there. That was 24/7. So I was like, well, we probably need to figure out how to fix that, right? So ended up going to having surgery, and I will say, thankfully, knock on wood, I went there. We saw a neurologist in Baptist Hospital in Winston-Salem, and he says, well, I'm kind of glad you're here, because if that thing burst, you'd probably be dead where you stood, right? Because it was all right on a bad spot, and no aneurysms were good. But so thankfully that got fixed. That was my summer between my junior and senior in high school, so I lost all that summer there, so that got fixed. And then go back to school in the fall, have a pretty good fall, come back into springtime, and I'm playing basketball, pickup basketball after school in the gym at the high school. And I know it doesn't look like it, but I have mad ups. I can really get up. So I jumped up, taking the shot. Somebody that didn't care for me too much, imagine that, swept my legs out from underneath me. And so instead of landing on my feet, I just did a dive right into the court, right? Head first, popped up, and the guy said, "You're okay," and then boom. So ended up getting 19 stitches above my eyebrow. Luckily, I didn't hit totally there, but because all things happen for a reason, there was paramedics were there after school teaching CPR to the teachers. So they went in the parking lot and said, "Hey, I might want to come up here and check this dude, see if he's going to be okay." So that was in March of the year after, July the year before. So that was 2 of 3, and I was like, that's not enough. Let's really go for all 3. So May came around. I was graduating high school, and ran into a car on the way to graduation practice. So I had in another car doing 45 miles an hour. They were doing 45 miles an hour. I turned in front of them, never saw them. Totaled her car, totaled my car. Seatbelt. Thank goodness my father was a real pain in the butt and always got mad at me for not wearing my seatbelt. I had it on. It snapped my collarbone, but it saved me from going through the windshield. And luckily lived through that. She lived through that, thank God. But that was 3 in about 10 months. My father did not have gray hair before all those things, and then he did after all those things. But, I remember riding in the ambulance to the hospital from that accident and then getting, taken care of and stuff. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, even if I was only 17 at that time, thinking, all right, somebody wants you here for a reason, right? Somebody wants you on this earth for a reason. You just got 3 major things in 10 months that somebody has really saved you from. And so that was what kind of catapulted me to at least my attitude. I really didn't know I wanted to do tennis then. I was playing a lot of tennis, but I didn't know I wanted to be a tennis pro. So, I kind of tell you that because it would have been easy for me to say, these things were, why does things keep happening to me? Why does the bad things keep going on to me? And why let somebody else do that? And it would be easy to take that attitude, but I tried to turn it the other way and say, I'm blessed enough to be able to get past all these things and be able to move forward. So I'm a big fan of glass half full instead of glass half empty. So this is one of the things that I always like to say and think about too, is that you can transform your business and your life living and teaching with a positive attitude. And it's hard. It's hard. I've been friends with Jeff and some other people and have a lot of good confidants in this room, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on, but it's always about bringing back to the positive statements that you can have in your life and thinking about all the things that are beneficial. They say life's a bunch of peaks and valleys. You're never at the top of the mountain all the time, and you're never at the bottom of the mountain all the time. That's what makes it interesting and tough. sometimes. So sometimes those valleys last a little bit longer than the peaks do. So defining the positive mindset. Enjoying the unexpected. Using the power of a smile. When if you walked down the street and you saw somebody that was just not having a great day and they looked up and you smiled at them. Or if you're one guy to another, you're like, something like that. And it totally changes something. I mean, I think it's kind of quirky, but if you don't have a smile, or see somebody without a smile, give them yours kind of thing. But it really does change what you're doing when you see somebody like that. Be a source of energy that lifts those around you. I really try hard with that, right? I think giving away of yourself really helps bring that positivity to you. Being happy for someone else's success. I've had to do that on a recent stuff, Some things went one way or another, and I'm going to be positive for somebody else's success. Telling somebody that they did a great job. I do that a lot, but you have to mean it. It can't be an empty kind of thing that you say. Not complaining about how unfair things appear to be. I say that I have a 16-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son, and my daughter was complaining about something last week, and I'm like, well, I've been telling you since you were 4. Life's not fair. It's not always going to go your way, and that's just part of what goes on. You can't always look at that. And then not letting other people's negativity bring you down. And that's hard, especially if you're related to them or if you're married to them. Those are some hard things from not let other people to bring you down there. So what are some teaching qualities of a positive attitude? Some of teaching a positive attitude of being adaptable. I mean, how many times have we had where more people come to clinic than you thought were coming, right? Or less people are coming, or the level's different. Being attentive. Just because I'll give you a great example. I have every week this one kid, kids can do what they want to do with me on the court, as long as we're kind of following. Like when it's time to pick up balls, that's not the time to go get water and stuff and all that. I'm like, let's do that first, then we'll go get water. Or let's do this before we do the other. So I try to keep those things in mind, but you got to be attentive. Everybody's a little bit different. I have one kid that he goes to the restroom a lot more than other kids. And, and a lot of times it happens to be a ball pickup time, right? And so I was never mean about it, but I was like, this is kind of like every single time, right? And so I just spoke with his father when they was picking him up and stuff. So it was a one-on-one conversation. And he said he's just on some new medication, that's one of the side effects. So try to give him some leeway. So I'm like, so now he knows where the key is because it's key fob. He knows where to go. I said, you don't have to ask me anymore, right? But then that little piece for nothing, right? You could get mad and go, no, you can't go, and something else happens. So you got to be attentive, understanding definitely in there, dependable. Gosh, being dependable is you got to be able to be counted on. I had an old GM, and I can't remember the acronym for it, but it was do what you said you were going to do. And that was the first line of every team meeting that we ever had was, Todd, what did you say you were going to do at last week's meeting? Did you do that? Do what you said you were going to do. And I'm like, how easy is that and difficult is that sometimes to give? Being generous. I think that you've got that with everybody that's here today, that's speaking, that's part of the presentations, for your one-on-one conversations. They're trying to be generous with each other. I definitely try to. This is a gift of being blessed with having tennis as my background and being able to teach the sport. Being confident, not cocky, confident in there. Just because you know more than your students doesn't mean you're better than them. Just because I can hit a ball better than my students doesn't mean that I'm better than them. Just means that I'm further down the road with them. Professional, huge thing these days. And then trying to limit negative words and statements. So how many in the room teach on a regular basis? Raise your hand. How many teach on a pretty regular basis? Here's my challenge for you. You can start with 30 minutes and work your way up to an hour. But try to go through a 30-minute lesson without saying a negative word or negative statement. Don't take your racket back like that. Or you're better when you do it this way. Don't hang out there in the corner. Get back in position. You're better prepared for the next ball if you recover quicker from the sideline, right? There's different ways to say things without always hitting on the negative, right? Because the students pick up on that. He's always telling me what I'm doing wrong, right? Tell me what I'm doing right. The other part of that is, especially with kids, is catch them doing things right. Find them when they're doing things right and tell them when they're doing things right. So you want to make sure that you do that. I always say, try to make jokes too when people are missing long or something. I'll say, I think the court, we shortened this side of the court last week. You didn't know that, so we'll try to do that. Or the net's too high. Or hey, I know the pro here. I'll talk to them about the net height. We'll get that fixed for you. Just try to joke with them a little bit, because sometimes you need a little bit of breakup in there instead of just always pounding in there. One gift that I have that I'm blessed with is just some emotional IQ. I'm really good at reading people in here, and I'm reading you guys and being fully engaged. Thank you. So I'm reading people of, hey, we need to change this drill. We need to change what's going on. They're not getting it. Let's take I call it like a palate cleanser. Let's take a water break. Let's change our backhand. The forehand's not working. Being able to read that rather than just hammering people down with that. So that's something that you can do. Another funny statement I always say is, you executed a great swing, but the ball didn't get in the way, or something like that. So you can kind of change it up on them. So how do we set the tone to raise engagement? And that's an important thing, and we kind of talked about, and Jason shared that, walking in positively, walking in, shoulders up, I'm confident when I walk on the court, I'm trying to give myself the positive things that I have there, but how do I set the tone in there? Could be humor. I wish that was a photo of me. That would be an awesome photo. So what does your body language say when you walk onto the court? Am I monotone? Am I, did I say things to people in a positive way? Am I talking about what I'm seeing on the court? A lot of it has to do with my tone when I get out there. Or we go, the old joke, yeah, that's Mrs. Johnson. The backhand is great. You're just feeding another ball, another ball, another ball. I kid you not, and if you've done this, I'm sorry if I'm pointing you out. I don't know you to tell you this, but I went over to watch my ladies play at another club a couple of years ago, and a pro he was a high school kid when he worked for me, so he just did some stuff, but then a few years later he became a teaching pro, and his body language was awful. It was terrible. Not only he was kind of sloppy on the court, and he was feeding tennis balls, right? I'm watching, he's teaching two adult men, and he's feeding them tennis balls. And I can hear him, he's running out of things to say, right? He's just feeding, he's the classic feed from the tee up to the other side. But he would have them run a drill, outside, boom, boom, and he'd take the third ball and throw it behind him. Boom, boom, throw it behind him. He was trying to get through that basket as quick as he could. He was out of ideas, right? And he came to the fence, and I won't say his name, but he came to the fence and he goes, "Hey Todd, how you doing?" I'm like, "I see what you're doing. Don't do that. That's not cool." "What are you talking about?" I was like, "No." And he's not in my pro. I was in another person's club. I'm like, "Don't do that. Don't cheapen it." But he threw him half the basket because the other half went behind him. And they don't see it because they're running the drill and stuff. But if you don't think, "Oh, that's a great idea for me to get through my lessons quicker." Don't do that. Man, that Todd, I got really something good from that presentation today. Please don't do that. Try to pepper compliments in there. I am a huge fan of live ball drills. I barely ever, even with the little kids, I barely ever do any dead ball stuff anymore. It's all live balls so that I can get around the court. And I circle. I don't know how many steps I make during lesson stuff. But unless it's a private lesson, I'm circling the court the whole time. And I'm trying to pepper in different compliments or suggestions, or why don't we try this or this. I love the ones when you're teaching adults and you say, "Well, remember we got to do this," and they say, "Oh, I was at this. I was down in Hilton Head at this resort, and this guy Tom Douglas. Do you know him? He was the resident pro there. He told me to do this." Okay. So I said, you could say, "Well, Tom doesn't know what he's talking about," or you could say, "All right, let's see how that works out," right? Because I've been teaching for over 30 years. I still don't know everything, right? I'm not saying that I'm the expert on every single piece of tennis. So maybe that worked for that student, right? There's different ways to play the game. Or I could say, like other pros do sometimes, "No, we're going to do it. We're going to do it my way. He doesn't really know what he's talking about." So you can get ideas from other places in there, but make sure that you don't shut down your students when you do that. Another thing is to change the tempo, right? Sometimes you need to slow down, sometimes you need to speed up, sometimes you need to speak slower, sometimes you need to speak higher, faster, whatever, but you got to change the tempo because you got to keep it interesting. With little kids, we don't do anything for more than 6-7 minutes, right? Because they don't have the attention span. I really don't have the attention span anymore, but they really don't have the attention span. So you got to keep them moving when they're out there. So some of the things on body language, did I arrive, when I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, did I arrive before my students? Was I ready for them? Did I greet them when they got to the court? Right? All my kids, when they come in the door, I'm about there and I'm like, let's go, come on, and I'm waving them, come on. I don't even want the parents to get out of the car. I want them to literally kick the kid out of the car and let them run in the door. Right? And I'm high-fiving, let's go, come on, we've been waiting, we couldn't start till you got here, let's go. Chop, chop, get them on the court. The adults, not so much, can't do that. But the kids, you definitely can do that. With the adults, how many of you still, a lot of people that have taught a long time in here, how many write your lesson plans down and take them on the court with you? Still do, right? Do you know how awesome it is to do that? And I didn't really get this. Like, I talk about this a lot, and I do this. I write down on a 3x5 index card, and I write down what we're going to do today, especially for larger clinics. I can't say I do it for every private lesson, but I do for bigger clinics. And I take it on the court with me, right? And I got it in my hand. If I've got another pro, I'll make them a copy. We talk about it just for a second. Hey, this is what we're doing today. Okay, cool. And then I'll put it in my pocket. I'll refer to it. Okay, that's what we're doing. And then the ladies will say, especially ladies will say, what is that? I'm like, well, this is our lesson plan. What we're going to do today. And it's amazing how you get more respect from people when you thought about me before you even showed up today? Y'all talked about me. Not talked about me personally, but you talked about us, what we're going to do today. Especially if you saw them play last week, right? What we see at that match, here's what we're going to do. That's a huge thing. I didn't really get the feeling of what that really felt like for the student until I hired a personal trainer last year. And when I would show up, this guy had everything like outlined, and we're doing this. He's got me in the chart. This is what we did last week. We're doing this. I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. My money to him didn't start when I got here. It started when we set it together. So I really didn't understand. I did understand the feeling, but it was nice to get it personally by somebody else doing that for me. So some student feedback. This is huge, 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 huge. To be able to figure out, where you need to go, how hard you can push somebody, how much they are willing to take when they get out there. What are their facial expressions? What are they doing when they're looking at you, when they're working hard? Are they getting mad? When I was playing competitively, and I'm kind of going back to this now. I would always hit myself in the leg when I get real mad. So like after end of matches, if I played really bad, it was like all pink and everything and red where I hit myself. And now I'm playing pickleball with my son, and I'm finding that the paddle finds the same spot. And I'm like, that's so you'll be able to walk after you hit yourself. But some of those things like the facial expressions. What do you see on there? The body language. Are they excited to be there? Or are they not excited to be there? I mean, everybody in this room ought to be able to tell if the parent's making the kid go to the clinic or if the kid's coming to clinic. You'll easily tell that when they're coming on there. I had a lady that was new to a clinic that's been a long-standing clinic. She's filling in for somebody. You could tell, you could hear her being not confident from the parking lot. I could hear her coming in because like, oh, so glad Mackie, so glad you could come join us today. We're glad to be our fourth. I don't belong here. You girls are better than me. She hadn't even walked on the court yet. She was already putting herself down, right? And so my job the whole time was like, hey, this is where you need to be. This is kind of thing in here. But they have that defeatist mentality for you're walking there. You could hear that. What kind of effort are they putting in? What words are they saying? And sometimes they're just somewhere else. And sometimes they are. I had a client when I was at Carmel that we would get done with a lesson. I'd walk up. The main tennis shop overlooked all of the tennis courts. And I'd walk in there and one of my pros would come and say, did you really teach that lesson? And I said, yeah. This woman, she wanted to talk, right? 45 minutes of our lesson was at the net. And I was like a therapist almost. But that was what she wanted. And I was like, okay, and I'll try to back up. And she said, well, all this kind of stuff was going on. So we wear so many hats, you really can't tell sometimes where people need to be. And the funny thing is, I'm now teaching her adult daughter. Now she's playing tennis with us, but everybody's different, and I always say, it's the client's money, where they want to be and kind of what they want to do. But sometimes she was definitely somewhere else. She was not in a good place at all times. So, all right, so we're putting drills together, and I kind of feel nervous with Craig in the room because he puts these things together really well. But with drill structure, I say they always have to serve a purpose. Please don't go out there, even the mini tennis, right? The hit and giggle, I call it, when you come up there. And when you're starting clinics, sometimes people are just reconnecting with you. Hadn't seen you in a week. What are you doing tomorrow? Where are we going for lunch? Blah, blah, blah. Everything has a purpose. But I try to put things in order of where I want to start and where I want to get to. And I've taken great, I still stuff that Craig has said. I still stuff that, Tate and Doak. I still all kinds of stuff that other people have said. And I use it, and I always give credit to where I took it from. But everything has to serve a purpose. From where the beginning of the lesson to the end of the lesson, I have to know where I'm going with it. I try to have a theme all the time when I get out on the court. If you don't have a theme, you kind of get lost in there. And the theme may be, if I hadn't hit with one of my juniors in a while, the theme may be, we just need to get the rust off. And that's what we're going to do for the whole hour. We're going to drill. We're going to play a whole bunch. And it may not be anything specific, but that's the point of we're going to hit a lot of tennis balls. Progression from start to end. Don't get lost in there. You got to know where you're trying to get to. Think and plan in advance. That's where the cards come in handy. Then share the plan, especially if I'm talking with somebody else and teaching with somebody else. Are you trying to keep a theme? That's important. I do try to write everything down and take it with me, and I'm happy to share that with them when we're out there on the court. One of the main things that I've always liked is what I call a validation conversation. You have to understand who I grew up with. My father was a middle school principal, but at first he was accepted to Duke Seminary, so he was going to be a preacher. So instead of being a preacher's kid, I was a principal's kid. So you got one or the other. So we were very, very good on, he was very good on making sure that I behaved, but the red hair got the best of me sometimes. So that always tough. It used to be red, I promise. But he had these things, and he didn't know he was even doing them, but I kind of gave it the term for it. And I do that with kids on a tennis court, especially. And I call them validation conversations. And a lot of times, especially with kids, if they get in trouble or they got to sit out or they don't get what you're doing, it's, first of all, and I put it up there, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They need to know that they're not sitting in timeout or they're not there because Coach Todd doesn't like them, right? Or Coach Todd's picking on them, or because who knows what has happened before they get there. So the validation conversation is this. I walk up to them after 30 seconds, a minute, and say, do you know why I have you sitting out? Do you know why I'm asking you to do this? And it could be no. It could be you don't like me, or you like her better, or him better, or whatever. And I always say, this is why that you're here. Here's the action that we're going to make, and that's what we're going to move to. Do you think you can do that? And sometimes they say no. So they sit there just a minute longer, and I go back to them. I don't leave them very long, but they need to know that the whole purpose of being there is to get better, is to improve, is to have a better day, not that I just wanted them to be in trouble. Because sometimes, with kids especially, getting in trouble and stuff is just attention. I need attention, right? I'm not getting attention somewhere else. I need attention. I need attention from Todd, other students, whatever. That's always what it is. And we got to be able to cut through that, not just think it's just negative. There's some positive that can be getting out of there. But the validation conversation was real big with me growing up, and I try to do that with the kids. The 3 Ps, I know you guys want to know what that is. Tony Robbins, and I got this 20-some-odd years ago. It's called the pain or pleasure principle. Okay, pain or pleasure principle. Everything you do in life is either to avoid the pain of not doing it or to gain the pleasure from doing it. Okay, so the whole idea of the 3 Ps is that some of the things of, who wants to go out and practice their serve? Right? Nobody. I don't want to go do that because that's not important. But I'm going to avoid the pain of double faulting in matches or getting attacked on my serve returns by gaining the pleasure of my serve getting better, of my confidence in there. Who wants to go run in between practices? Who wants to get in better shape? Nobody, except for my fiance. Everybody else doesn't want to run, right? So, but that's part of, I'm going to be in better shape. I'm not going to get tired. I'm not going to wear out during matches. So everything you can do in there. For us pros, you want to grow your business, right? Who wants to be on the phone calling up members you haven't seen in a while, or students you haven't seen in a while? I don't, right? But I will tell you, what's today, Friday? Wednesday, I sat down. It was a rainy day in Charlotte. I sat down and I wrote, I've done this for years and years and years, 1 to 50 on a sheet of paper. And I called until I got 50 people. May not talk to them, left a message, and I got until I hit 50. When I got 50, I stood up and I was done doing that. And I probably had 10 get back in touch with me since I called those 50. But you don't have to do that. Call 10, call 5. But that little bit of touch, hey, we're missing you. I call it the church philosophy, right? Hey, we haven't seen you in a while. We miss you here. We want to have you back on the court with us. We want to get you back out there playing. And that's what good churches do that as well. So the best 6 words that you can say, anybody know these? The best 6 words that you can say to a kid or to your own children is, I love to watch you play, right? My son had just decided, on quick sidebar, my son just decided this past week that he was done playing soccer. And he just finished his first year playing Division I soccer, came home from there, and he's like, I think I'm done. Okay, that was big. I said, what are you going to do? And he has a plan, what he wants to do. But, I mean, I got so much pleasure out of seeing him play, my daughter play sports, and so that's the best thing. When they come off the court, especially with your own children or other people's kids, when they come off the court, they know that they missed the serve. They know they double faulted. They know they missed the ball on match point. They know they didn't get to the drop shot. They know all these things. You're not telling them something they don't know. They come off and you want to beat them up. You say, hey, love to watch you play there. It was a great match. When they're ready, they'll talk about it. And they may not be ready. Wayne Bryan, the Bryan brothers' dad, said the best things you can tell the kids when they come off the court is you want a hamburger or you want pizza. Those are the first 2 things that you want to do, right? Because they know what went on in the match. They don't need to talk about that. But, and then somebody said it's probably somebody smart from USDA or something that said something, but it was the car ride home is killing youth sports. Especially us dads. And I'm not like that, but other people are. But this car ride home is killing youth sports. Because all you're doing to me is telling me what I did wrong today instead of telling me what I did, or some of the good things that I did in there. So guided discovery is this kind of idea of letting the students be part of the process. It's also the Socratic method of asking questions that they know the answers to, and you hopefully know the answers to if you're asking the questions. But with a guided discovery, it's we both get there together, right? We know where we're going, part of the process. We let the student be part of that process, and we ask leading questions. When I do this, what do you think is going to happen next? When this ball is given to you, what will be the best next course of delivery? When we talked about, Chris Hoshauer talked about yesterday, he was sharing O'Shaughnessy's thing about A, B, C, and D, the lines or the spaces of the court. If I hit it to A, I probably need to be in B over here to recover that. I'm going to recover to here. So some of those leading questions. Some of the kids, if I ask them a question, what could you have done? I ask this question all the time to adults too. Tell me what you could have done differently. Don't say hit it in the court. Because I usually get that. I should hit it over the net. I know that. What could you have done differently besides that? And if they don't know, give them multiple choice. You think it was A or B? You think we should have been lower than the ball, higher than the ball, top spin, underspin? What do you think we should have done differently? Wrong grip, wrong choice, all these types of stuff. And help them get to there. Because when you get to the end point together, it's huge. It's big for both of y'all because they're part of that. I used to teach a woman, and she played college tennis at Boston College, right? Good D1 school. And she's playing at a club that I'm at. She's a 5-0 still. She's probably 20 years out of college, and she missed the ball, and I said, you probably should have gone to continental grip. She goes, what's that? What's that? What's your continental grip? She goes, yeah. And I walked over there and showed her. She goes, oh, that grip. The pro that taught her just told her what to hold. Didn't tell her what it was, Why should you use it? But you should hold this grip. And she knew where the grips were, but she didn't know what they were called or anything. So she's not getting guided discovery. She's being told, this is what you need to hold, and now we're going to hit 1,000 balls with you holding that grip, and to figure it out and stuff. Which I just was crazy. She didn't know what that was called. But we try to get to the end point together. We ask them what works better. And it's not always what you think. Sometimes they, hey, when I do this, that's uncomfortable to me. I mean, can you imagine if we made Agassi hit all of his forehands like this? I mean, he'd never been Agassi, if he didn't get to be in open stance. What if we told Rafa that he couldn't swing like this, right? And I heard this quote too, the pros do something and the teaching pros catch up. We figure out from where the elite athletes are doing things, we figure out, all right, they're doing it better. We need to learn how to teach that kind of thing. So I always give them A's and B's, or, what would be the outcome of that. So when we're teaching out there, I always like to think about how do I close lessons. And it really depends on, what, tell my mom I'll call her that. So it depends on what you're teaching, what level, adults, kids, and everything. If you're teaching kids, we play a thing called traveling salesman. Anybody know what traveling salesman is? Okay, so traveling salesman would be, if I had 2 courts, two tennis courts, I might make 4 courts out of it. I split them in half, right? And then, if you got, say, 10 kids on 2 courts, I've got 4 champs, 1 in each half of the court, and then the other 6, and they're challenging those people on that court. I win the point, I take their place, and so I'm the traveling salesman. And the kids get a kick out of it because, they'll lose a point, and some kid will say, she didn't want one I was selling. So you go to another court or something like that. Or she already had a broom, she don't need another one. So they always make a joke at her, or I'll joke with them a little bit. Imagine that. About when they play traveling salesman. So that's an easy game, but they're all moving. I also am very cognizant of the fact of when I was paying my money for my kids to play sports, of what it looked like when I got there, right? What was going on when I got there? And you're not trying to put something over on the parents, but the parents don't want to see them, 5 in a line standing there and Billy's going to hit 1 ball in 10 minutes. Nobody wants to see that. That's what they got their cameras out for. They want to see Billy hit the ball though. So if I'm doing that, everybody's engaged, everybody's moving, everybody's got something to do. Hot feet I call happy feet now. This is little kids love this. Put them on the baseline, we're rolling, try to hit them with their toes with the ball, so they're moving back and forth. If you get hit, I can get back in the game by going touch the fence, come back and stuff. What they really like is after 2 games, then I let them do the same thing, but the pros get on the line. So we have to have happy feet. We got to move side to side. They love that. They end up throwing them, trying to hit you in the face with it, but you got to be careful on those. King of the Court, that's an easy game. That's a smaller game or a bigger game of traveling salesman. If I'm running adults, I like to do something exhausting. So something with cardio on a high end. Triples, I do a lot of that. You can do 4-on-4 and 3 play at a time. We're rotating, we're moving quick, and no mulligans, balls in play. We've all seen cardio tennis and triples. Eliminator was something that I did because one of my guys said, if I'm not exhausted, I'm not paying for tonight's clinic. Wrong thing to say, right? He's pulling these shorts. We got his end, and I was like, I need to get you some more water because I will refuse to. I'm like, clinic is going to last 30 extra minutes to make sure that happens. But eliminator is just, some 10-ball pattern kind of stuff and really working them side to side and throwing the ball out wide. You can run 2-3 people at a time doing that type of stuff. With team practice, I do things like double trouble, rush and crush. We all have different names for these things. Some 2v1s. But you want to feel like we got a high end when we get done. I don't want to end the clinic. You do want to wrap up things, but I'll wrap up while they're out of breath getting water. Hey, this is what we talked about today. Everybody, good job. And then we kind of move on from there. So I want to do that at the very end, but I want to always end it on a high note, and usually a high note that involves me being out of breath, and maybe the students being out of breath too. So them being out there. So a couple of takeaways from today. There's a few things I just want to talk about, and it comes from an acronym that's called Coaching Sports. And with the Coaching Sports, I'm sorry I don't have a slide for it, but if you want to jot down any of these, that would be great. So the acronym is Coaching Sports, and the takeaways are concentrate on the positives. Okay, overteach. Make Make sure they really know what you're talking about. The A is amplify successes. Even the little things matter in the lessons there. Compliment specifics. You really did this well today. Or your serve looks so much better. Well, so that didn't work. Yeah, but this piece of that you really did well today. Have fun. Trust me, y'all come to a clinic of mine, we'll have fun, I promise. Instill laughter. Okay, that's a huge thing. You got to be able to pick around a little bit and to play around in the court and whatnot. That's always good to have. Never presume anything. You have no idea the woman that just walked in your court, or the guy that got off work, or the kid that comes in the court. You have no idea what happened before they walked out there. If somebody yelled at them, or they got in an argument, or somebody cut them off in traffic, or if, I had this twice at Carmel. Somebody had a flat tire. Coming in the parking lot, parked the car, and then said, I'm going to need your help to change the tire until we get done with the clinic. But never presume anything. You don't know what's going on, people. Get into their shoes. Empathize with them. Turn my page here. Set an example of good sportsmanship. That's a huge thing, especially when you're playing in with matches, right? You're playing in with 3-and-me's and other things. Promote a team spirit. Hey, we're all in this together. We're all picking up the ball. Everybody hit every ball. We're all picking up all the balls. Or this is what we're doing. I always have in the clinic, especially with kids, there's a ball that went over the fence or something. So every week I'll take, all right, you two, you go that direction, you go that direction, you circle the fence and then bring the balls in there. Something that I started doing, we run a lot of schools programs, and I have a few schools that we show up at 7:45 on a Tuesday or a Wednesday morning, and I've got 25 kids that show up at 7:45. Right? You better be on your game at 7:45 if they're walking in the door. But I did something with them this spring, is that we had 12 weeks and I had 24 kids. So every week I picked 2 kids that were my super kids. And the super kids, at the end of the thing, they got to pick the games. They got to do some other stuff that the other kids. And then the next week I had 2 super kids. So you want to know at the beginning of every week, the kids are running there. I want to be a super kid today. I want to be a super kid today. They were always so excited to do that. So they got to make the rules within reason of what we were doing. So that was just a fun little thing. And they got to do that and say, all right, who hasn't been super kid today? So I picked 2 new kids and all that. And I always had a set of twins that they raised their hand every week. I'm like, you were the first ones. I don't remember you guys in there, but they wanted to do that. But promote that team spirit. Organize to avoid confusion. Recognize progress. Teach and assess skills. And then set a reasonable expectation. So, a couple of things I just want to leave you with. And I do talk these from my heart. And if you've known me for a few years or you know me for a little bit, I really, really, really feel blessed to have tennis to be what I get to do for a living. It is such a blessing to do that. Please tell me that you're all excited when people go, what do you do for a living? Aren't you like, I teach tennis, man. I don't work there or do this. I don't do financial work, but we're going to pick on you. I do financial stuff. How boring is that, right? I get to teach tennis for a living. So, I can't wait for somebody, like we're at a party or something, can't wait for somebody needs to ask me what I do for a living. I can't wait to tell them, right? Still have 30 years in the business. Please ask me what I do for a living. But, that's the cool part. And I really feel that way, that I've been blessed to be able to do that, because the impact on somebody's life that you have when you've been cast as an authority figure in their life is huge. It's enormous. You've been given that job. How many times have you been asked, what do you think I should do about my knee or my ankle or my shoulder hurts and stuff? You're like trying to give them a medical opinion because you're that authority figure in their life. But once you've built that bridge of trust, they respect your opinion and your thoughts, and then they seek their approval. And on a daily basis, it's hard to bring it every day. I get it. It's hard to do that. But they're expecting your best, and they deserve your best every time they walk on the court. The first hour you teach in the day and the last hour you teach in the day, they deserve your best. And one word of encouragement, a positive speak, can be the difference in that kid's day, especially kids or adults' day. Could be the difference in there. And the other is also true. One word of negativity could take them down as well. So when you give them all this positivity, you release self-confidence, success, self-reliance, happiness, healthiness, and a whole lot more. So I'm always constantly looking for ways to improve our teaching abilities. Thank God you're here. We've heard a lot of great people speak, and get your encouraging qualities. And so one of the last things that I will leave you with is one of my favorite quotes. And you've heard it before, but it's worth repeating. And it's by famous runner Steve Prefontaine. And I used to put this quote in the back of my junior team tennis shirts right there. I'd put them on the very back. And it says, to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. And I used to put it on all my kids' shirts. We put the club and USTA and all on the front, whatever. I always put that on my kids' shirts in there because I want them to know that you've been given a gift to play tennis. And it's one of the things, or any sport, to be able to go out there. You're healthy enough to do that, to be able to go out there. So I really try to live that. I hope that any of this that you take, if you take anything back to you and it helps you be positive in any part of that, of your teaching or your career, I would definitely love to hear that. You can contact me on any time. I'm in that stage. We just talked about this today of being, I'm very blessed to be a Master Pro. I earned it. I put the time in for sure. I'm not going to say that it was a given. But I want to give back to everybody that I can, whether you're a peer of mine, whether you're ahead of me in your career or you haven't gotten there yet. I want to be that resource to you, and there's others in this room that will be that resource to you. So I really appreciate you giving me an hour of your time, and hopefully we'll all move forward in a positive way. So thank you very much.